So, orchestrating a multinational outbound SDR team successfully, a long title for a short session of 20-25 minutes. So I'll try to be brief and take the overview of this. So I've been working with outbound and B2B marketing for tech companies for close to 25 years now. We started Bright Vision in 2000, so we are on our 22nd year. And we have picked up a few things that we have done over the years there. But one common topic is, of course, scaling sales. And why is it important to scale sales and continue to grow as a tech company or a SaaS company? Well, it's important because if you become the category leader in your space, in your market space, where you compete with the other ones that define themselves in your category, you will end up as a much bigger company, much bigger market cap, a lot of the best references and clients and so forth, and you will establish yourself as a long-term successful company. It's so important in technology to be one of the front runners, if not possible to be the leader in the category. So it's important to grow, especially when you're in a high growth segment or category. If you're a venture capital based company and you're potentially in the future looking for another round or rounds of financing, it's even more important to grow your revenue. Why? Because revenue is the primary driver of tech companies' valuations. We have a multiple now on B2B tech companies. This is a historic overview, the last 5 years up until December 21. What multiples of EBITDA and revenue that is typically in average the valuation of tech companies. And as we can see right now, in December, now we have had a little bit of turmoil, as you know, after New Year. But up until December, we had an average valuation of 4 times the revenue. If you're a SaaS company, it's even higher. Up until December, it was around 8 to 9 times the revenue. So that means that if you can increase your revenue with $1 million, the valuation of the company goes up times 8. So that's so important to drive the revenue growth before closing the next financing round. Okay, so yes, we all need to grow fast. Now what? Well, in that case, you need to set up and run a well-oiled, efficient sales machine that has all the components to do that. And that's what's so important with the SDR team, and try to do that in a scalable way in multinational countries. So we typically talk about this as an act of orchestration, because there's so many moving parts you need to get in place in order to be able to scale your sales process. It's so tightly knit together with the marketing, and there's different roles in the sales. So I will talk about 3 aspects of the sales process here today in order to be able to do this orchestration act. And it's people, platform, and process. It's really high concepts, but a lot of stuff in there under it. If we start with people, the SDR team and the supporting roles in order to get this outbound orchestration to happen and to get it to work smoothly so you can grow faster. We have a few different roles here that we definitely talk a lot about. We have the BDR, who's primarily an outbound-driven prospector, who is doing phone calls, emails, and of course, to some extent, social, but it's primarily phone and email-driven role. The SDR have turned out to become more the same thing, but more heavily weighting in on social selling, LinkedIn prospecting, email prospecting, cadence, etc., using tools and systems in order to do that. But they're doing the same thing, driving leads, booking demos, and connecting to potential prospects. The account executive, the AE, that's the person who is actually sending the proposals, doing the demos, closing the deals, and so forth. So that's the 2 roles that are driving this outbound orchestration engine if you want to be a fast sales setup. So the 2 roles, so I will talk about SDRs now, but I do include BDR or any other DR acronym, where there's MDRs, ADRs, etc. It's pretty much the same, but the whole idea you get. So one question to discuss if you set up a team around this is, what's the ratio between SDRs to account executives? Most companies that's in middle range pricing for B2B sales would benefit from a 1-to-1 ratio in average. That's mostly what we recommend. If you're upper scale in enterprise sales with expensive products, etc., you can have less SDRs. And if you're in the lower scale where you have a lot of transactions and quite quick close ratio, sales cycles with a lot of closes and things like that, you can need more than one, maybe 2-to-1 or 1.5-to-1 in order to fill the pipeline. Maybe you can process like 8 to 10 meetings a day if you're in lower pricing range is AE. In combination to this, you need supporting roles to these core sales teams in order to get them working efficiently. And I will talk a bit more about this in the process section I will come back to, but we need copywriters, RevOps, we need sales coaching, data analytics and data analysts, we need team leaders, we need campaign strategists and paid media and digital specialists that can support the sales efforts with all the moving parts that needs to be in place. Paul did a great job to explaining a few of these things that Demandbase do and can be a missing link in the areas here. But one role that is important, and I think Demandbase also did a good job explaining how a lot of different system needs to be put together, is the RevOps role. It's probably the newest one of these roles, supporting roles. We have a RevOps team here at Bright Vision that works together, both internally for our own sake, but also together with clients to put the pieces together, the different systems, the different data sources, the different tools and the tech stacks that we need to have to work seamlessly for the BDRs, SDRs, and AEs, so we can leverage the technology and the data we have access to. And that is very complicated and quite a lot of things around there you need to know and work with. So that's why RevOps is becoming a role in itself. So definitely worth considering if you haven't invested in a RevOps role, at least to part-time maybe. If you also scale a team, you need to understand that it's really hard to scale it. It's hard to recruit and it's hard to find people if you want to cover many countries as we do in Europe. And each country has its own challenges. So we don't have the same sales culture in the Nordics as in Germany, as in UK, as in Spain or Italy. It has its nuances. It has its own sales cycle. So you need to be able to adapt both the team, of course, especially around fluency in local language, but also how you drive and set KPIs and use different sales languages. That is so important, and having things around that so you can do that in a good way. So when you start a new country and when you add a new country to this sales process, start small and try to learn fast, set up new experimentation and tests and hypotheses. And then when you get things moving and you're closing in on your KPIs that you think are reasonable goals for this country in comparison to the other ones that you're doing well, then you expand from there and do so. So that's one of our key cornerstones here at Bright Vision. Start small, but learn fast and expand when you know you can. Otherwise, you will, of course, pay a little bit too much. Moving on to the SDR tech stack. This is a big topic, and we have already talked a lot about Demandbase and the different things you can do in there. But that is only one part of the SDR tech stack, to be honest. We, of course, have seen, most of us have seen this map on the marketing technology landscape that's coming out actually in a few weeks' time and updated for 2022. But as you know, we have seen an explosion of marketing apps and software coming out over the last 10 years. What is less known is that we have had the exact same explosion of technology coming out is on the sales side of things. The marketing side and the sales side is of course tightly connected, but we do see a lot of sales technology coming out that making life easier for SDRs, BDRs, and AEs in different areas. And I will show you a little bit about the things going on here that you might consider when setting up a sales tech stack for SDRs. I had the privilege to interview Tony Hughes from Australia, who is one of the absolutely best experts I know about when it's come to tech stacks for salespersons in B2B sales. He quite recently released a book that he co-authored called Tech Powered Sales. And he have found out that today in Silicon Valley, where maybe we have the most aggressive adoption of sales technology today, in average, a high growth company there spends $1,000 in tech costs per rep and month. But as the technology curve goes in the tech area today for sales technology, he predicts that will actually go up to $5,000 in the coming years, because there's so much technology coming out that probably will become more or less ubiquitous for B2B salespersons. So that's Tony Hughes. Another company that do a lot of analysis around SDRs and AE work is the Bridge Group. And they have found out in their latest report that the median sales tech stack consists of a CRM plus 5 additional tools. That could be demand-based, of course, but it could also be other ones. So what kind of tools is that? Well, in their adoption curve here that they have done, we see that LinkedIn Navigator or Sales Navigator or LinkedIn Premium is kind of a everyman's tool today. We have an adoption rate around 80% of all B2B sales organizations today using that. Then we have the sales engagement platforms as a number 2 there. I will soon come back to that. We also have sales intelligence of different kinds, account and contact data. I would include intent data and platforms like Demandbase in there. We have different supporting software like calendar and scheduling apps. We have call recording and conversation analytics, where you actually can get an AI sales coach helping you to find strong words or using the right acronyms, or things that actually automatically gives you feedback on your sales dialogue. It's not available in every language yet, but the speed of development in the AI technology of speech recognition is going really, really fast. So that's a very exciting area. We also see a lot of other stuff coming along here. For example, chatbots like Drift that integrates really well with CRM systems and things like that. Learning platforms, onboarding the team and learning them, and continuously investing in upskilling and reskilling around tools and methodologies is really important to these organizations today as well. So a lot of investments goes into more or less LMS platforms that's tailored towards sales and SDR roles and so forth. Lessonly is probably one of the leading providers in that space. So let's have a little bit of a look at the sales engagement platforms that are pretty much most B2B sales organization an extra tool, just like Sales Navigator is today. And if you look at the G2 grid for sales engagement platforms, there is, as in every category these days, a lot of providers and players that offer platforms that complement CRM systems with cadences, email automation, account insights, where you can connect third-party databases in a more easy way so actually have actionable data, so you can get the intent data connected and so forth. So for example, we can see up here that we have a few providers there. And 2 of the leading ones, apart from HubSpot, which is a big company in all categories, is Outreach and Salesloft. If there's 2 providers, if you just want to do a quick review of a few providers, these are good to start with. There's a lot of other ones that are cheaper and almost as good, but these are some of the most biggest market share leaders in this space. And we are using primarily Salesloft, but have also used Outreach to a little bit extent. But we're continuously evaluating different platforms in this space. So we use different platforms for different different campaigns and when the environment is different, a little bit different, so we can use the best one for suiting the client and the topic and the goals we're going after in that specific campaigns. So that's what you need to consider from a tech stack perspective. Okay, so let's tie this together in a process. So we have a tech stack that's hopefully having all the data we need. We have the tools we need in order to be able to do good work. We have BDRs and SDRs in the different languages, recruited and onboarded, and we have AEs, and we have a team leader. So now let's tie this together with a process. And there are 6 parts in our process I think you should have a checklist on and make sure you have worked out in detail before you start selling. So what we typically try to do here is to talk about the 6 steps of these phases as our process, or just say our process for a multinational SDR orchestration team. And where do we start? We start with the data of the clients. We need to define our ideal client profile and try to find the data. Where is that one? So in that area, we need to, of course, define it, but also find demographic data and firmographic data, and also maybe technographic data on if it's applying systems and things like that. And this is a really simple overview of the 2 things that is important in defining your target ideal client profile. Ideal client profile is on the company level, and then you need to add on which are the titles, or other words, buyer personas within that organization that we're going after. So we have a narrative that focuses on the both parts of it. And when we develop data, especially for multinational campaigns in Europe, we use in average 5 data sources because they're so hard to find one single source of data that covers many companies, countries, and different areas of businesses and so forth. So we use different multiple databases set and import the parts and set them together. Some databases are good at companies, some are better on contacts, some are good at technology and profiling and so forth. So it might differ. So we need to have data analysts in our data analytics and insight team that puts that together to our clients and their SDR teams. If you're moving to the next part there, supporting with sales data, that's when we have the core data set of the companies and the titles and so forth, the buyer personas, we want to put the intelligence upon it, like intent data, just like Paul talked about. Who is actually in some kind of active process looking for providers in this and that area? Do we see that they are using keywords or doing searches? Do we have trigger events? Do we connect any information from our marketing automation platforms where we see visitors coming in that actually have information that should get them prioritized for our sales team to be worked on a lot sooner than other prospects in that data set? So that's so important that we work with that. Moving on to the next one. Campaign strategy is so much more important these days than it were a few years back. When we contact companies today, we need to be more unique, having better value propositions, more worked through sales messages and narratives than ever before, because there's so many companies out there chasing the attention for our prospects. That's why you need to have professional copywriters and professional designers helping you doing the emails and the supporting content and so forth. And so you can link to that and have a really good thought through process all the way through. The days when the BDRs themselves put together a little bit of outlines here and there, if you're not really good at that as a BDR or AE, you need to have professional help from a sales copywriting team who can help you think through all the different cadences of emails and social touches and things like that, so we can do it in a smart and coherent way all the way through. And communication cadence design is so important as well, because in the next step, we are going to decide. So yes, we need to be creative and use the tools we have to our, to our ability. Because when we choose which channels are we going to talk with our clients in? Are we going to talk to clients over phone? Pretty much most of the times we do that. And that is still the most efficient way. If you see how many qualitative dialogues per hour in general we produce, in combination to if you compare it to social selling and how many dialogues we strike up from LinkedIn, etc., etc. So phone is important, but a lot of campaigns these days are also mostly email and social selling driven. So typically we do add both phone, email, and social selling to many campaigns we do today. And more are also using paid ads and targeted ads, either through LinkedIn ABM efforts, but also third-party platforms like Demandbase, where you can go after IP targeting and things like that. Also using intelligent landing pages, where you can put up content that refers to the ones you have information on, and you can be intelligent in how to enhance your messaging there. And also email deliverability is more important than ever. So many things we need to do in order to get our email through. So we're using different technology platforms in order to make sure that we don't send too many emails, that we do use the right domains and things like that. So we have a high deliverability score. And I think that's one area a lot of companies misses today. So also a word on email sequencers. When using Salesloft or Outreach or other platforms that have the email sequence tools, where you can pretty much put on an automatic robot sending out email templates to everybody who you have on your list, or that triggers something in your system or so. And you can put in a 10-step email cadence there very, very easily today. And this is something that have been overly used. So as you know, you receive a lot of templated emails. So be aware of, do not use them lightly, do not send too many. And our thumb of rule is that 20% of every email that goes out needs to be personalized. And by that, we don't mean putting in a token that says, "Hi, Jacob." We mean that the first and second sentence should be something that is in context for that specific person you're sending out the email to. So you need to do that manual work on every email. That's what we recommend, and that's where we see the best results. Apart from that, you can use tokens and standardized, well-written emails, of course. And the same goes for LinkedIn emails and things like that. So it's so dangerous to think that, wow, I can blast out 4,000 emails this month by just clicking a few buttons and do the templates and bam, everything goes out. Well, it won't produce the result you're hoping for, because it's too templated, too robot stylish. So you need to put in the work there. I will be happy to share examples with you if you're interested in this area afterwards. And campaign optimization. It's so important that when we do run a big SDR outreach in different countries, we need to constantly optimize and see how are things going in this country and that country. Are we doing any best practice benchmarking? Why are we so successful in Germany, and why are we lagging in Norway, and so forth? So we constantly optimize and try to learn from each other and compare also best practices and insights that we do continuously. And that's the role of the product manager, and of course also peer-to-peer discussions between the sales team on how we do things in a good way. How are you responding to this question? How do you strike up interest in your conversations and so forth? So that's a constant thing that needs to go on. Also, having an experimentational lean process, so to say, where you do A/B testing and ongoing experimentation and hypothesis testing. Why is it possible to improve this conversion rate? How can we even get more on the phone and so forth? So today we need to be very experimental and not just settle for, this is how it goes, just put in the work. No, we need to every week have a evaluation of this. And the last part, of course, reporting upwards in the organization. Are we actually getting return on investment? Are we having a highly account penetration on the most important accounts we're going after? Do we see a pipeline grow and so forth? These are things that are so important for upper management, CFOs, CMOs, CSOs, or CEOs to understand, because these can be pretty big investments. And of course, if we're closing business and we see the sales cycle is short enough to actually drive revenue, it's quite easy to set up these KPIs. And we have done for several clients. So please reach out if you want to have examples of setting up KPI reporting that satisfies the CXO suite of inside sales and SDR processes. But it's so important to keep them in the loop and make everybody understand what's going on. So to sum up, people plus platform plus process. If you do those things, and there's so many things under each area that could be a full day event in itself. Well, if you do that well and you try to check the most boxes, that creates a fast scaling sales process, as long as you have a strong offering, of course. Otherwise, it might be hard anyway. But as long as you have a pretty good product that there is a market demand for, you will create a pretty well-fueled, fast scaling sales process. So the question now is, if you want to go down this road and build this process, should you build it in-house and hire everybody as an employee? Should you outsource to a company like Bright Vision or somebody else? Or should you go hybrid, maybe doing a little bit of everything? But there's pros and cons with every of the alternatives. One thing we have seen that is very attractive to going hybrid and using an external outsourcer to do parts of the SDR work is that we can be a fractional resource in comparison to in-house resources that most likely will be full-time employees and have a more heavy loaded cost and the longer onboarding, etc. So when exploring new countries and trying to figure out, should we do an attempt to win this market or that market? Should we go into the DACH regions? Should we go to the Benelux or some other European countries? We can set up a half-time SDR to do a first attempt there, together with some light supporting marketing or some light work that will give us a hunch about that market, and if it's worthwhile doubling down on that and building a team for real. So fractional SDR teams might be a good way to complement if you're going down the hybrid route. Otherwise, we can, of course, set up a fully outsourced solution as well. What is new here at Bright Vision over the last 6 months is that we also offer a 360 SaaS sales team that actually can do both the parts of bringing in the demos, setting up the meetings, but also where you can hire an account executive in local language that is fluent and actually close the sales, as long as it's a medium complex solution, of course. So for a lot of SaaS sales companies, this is a really good way to go forward if you want to scale really fast, because then we can be up and running in 30 days in many countries. And that also needs data analysts that can provide the data and work with the insights of which country accounts should we prioritize, how can we find good data in different countries, and so forth, and finding the right contacts to go after, which is a lot of work if you're going multinational. So that is one learning. You should not underestimate the cost and the investment you need to do in the data in order to be successful in many countries at the same time. That was a little bit of the insights I had with me here today. So thank you so much for listening in. And let's see if there's any questions to follow up on this.
Thank you, Jacob. We do have a few questions, and we have one here. Any big pitfalls to look out for when orchestrating an outbound SDR team?
Oh, there are many. And I think there's a lot of things you need to think about, and when you do build an SDR team. But it's important to understand that it's not the same role as a salesperson. It's not the same type of personality many times. So what I see sometimes is that people hire for AEs, but don't acknowledge the specific competencies and personalities that SDRs and BDRs need to have. So it's not the same person. It's not the same way to structure the service, the roles and so forth. So that could be one pitfall. And also another pitfall is that if you don't get that right, you will have a lot of turnover in the SDR role, because they want to go to the account executive role as soon as possible, because they're closers. They want to do the sending out the proposals, etc. So that is one major pitfall, to understand what is the role and what is the best profile of that candidate we are looking for, and try to source that candidates in a good way. So try to make the SDR role a career path in itself, that don't necessarily need to go to an AE as soon as possible. I think that's a pitfall a lot of in-house organizations do.
All right. And what do you think all SDRs should keep in mind when they're making outbound sales calls?
Try to be brief, try to be on point, and be well researched before picking up the phone, or whatever way you're contacting the person you're trying to strike up a dialogue with, and be humble and not taking it for granted that they are interested or have a need. But hopefully you have some indications that this company and that role will have an interest of the problems you're targeting, and that you have solved for similar roles and titles before. So try to be proposing your value prop as soon as possible, and try to see if that's a match, so you can get a few more hours. So you're not selling the system the first thing you do, you're trying to sell a few minutes interest to get the interest, and then you get a demo, and at the demo you try to sell the system, so to say. So it's a little bit of a step-by-step process where you only want to sell the next step.
Thank you very much.